You're listening to The Grip, where we take hold of mindset and martial arts. Now, let's get started. Today's episode is structured a little differently than our usual format. I'm bringing on three amazing women who are all approaching their black belt promotions in the coming month. And instead of focusing on technical discussions, this conversation is about their journeys and the headspace that comes with standing on the edge of such a major milestone in jiu-jitsu. I'll introduce each guest and we'll get to hear their personal stories, and then we'll get into a few deeper questions to better understand what the road to black belt has looked like for them, physically, mentally, and emotionally, and what it feels like as promotion day approaches. This episode is about reflection, identity, growth, and the realities of long-term commitment to the art. Today's first guest is someone who truly embodies what it means to live a martial arts lifestyle, on and off the mats. She's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with 7 years of dedicated training, along with experience in Taekwondo, adult kickboxing, fitness classes, and even a little Muay Thai just for fun. While she's a casual competitor herself, her real passion shines through in coaching, especially at tournaments where she loves supporting and helping athletes in high-pressure moments. Outside the gym, she's a full-time working mom of 2 incredible kids, one of whom is a competitive wrestler and the other who has special needs. For the past 5 years, she's been coaching kids' jiu-jitsu classes, playing a huge role in shaping young athletes both technically and personally. She's also deeply involved in advocacy and community building, having spent several years on the planning committee for her son's local Down syndrome organization. Her story is one of balance, resilience, and giving back through martial arts, coaching, and family, and I'm really excited to dive into her journey today. I'm excited to welcome our first guest, Aileen Pick. So, Aileen, thanks for coming on the show. First, why don't you just start us off? I know you're going to kind of lead the way, so we'll keep it simple. Why don't you just give the audience an idea of where you're from, a little bit about what your upbringing was like, and then your journey and start into martial arts.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm from the East Coast originally. I grew up in the DC area. I kind of had a typical upbringing in the suburbs, I guess. My dad worked outside the home and my mom ran a daycare and a cake making business in our home until she worked outside the home when I was a little bit older. Yeah, I had 3 siblings growing up and all of us were involved in sports in some way or another. And I don't remember how old I was, but as a child, my younger brother and I were put in Taekwondo. And so we did that for several years. I don't know why we didn't stick with it, but we didn't stick with it. And then when I was in college, I was looking for something to keep me more active. And I'm one of those people where I think probably because I have ADHD, like I need to be entertained while I'm doing something, or at least like not make it feel like work. So I saw that they had an Olympic Taekwondo club at my college. I went to Arizona State for undergrad. And so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna join that club and just do that for fun. So I did that for fun for a couple of years. And then I just got busy and couldn't keep up with it. Once I finished my undergrad, I ended up going to law school. And right before I went to law school, I met my current husband, ended up graduating from law school, worked in the DC area for some time, had my daughter. And then my husband and I were like, let's get the heck out of the DC area. We don't want to be here anymore. And my husband had this vision of moving to the West Coast. Like he was like Pacific Northwest. My soul lives there. So he'd never been there, by the way. It was just something he just said he always envisioned himself really loving it there. We went and visited when my daughter was really little. I was still on maternity leave. We fell in love with it. We came to Seattle in January and it just so happened to be sunny in January. So I think, somebody out there wanted us to move to Washington State because if it had been rainy and disgusting and cold, I probably would have been like, this is not for me. But so anyway, over the next year, I was applying for jobs, trying to find a job out here. Ended up getting one, moving out here, had been living here for a couple years. And my daughter was in preschool as she was 3, and we were looking for some sport for her to do. And we had another family from the same preschool who was like, "You should put her in jujitsu." And I was like, "I don't even know what jujitsu is.
Mhm.
I've heard of it. I just don't know what it is." So we went on YouTube, showed my daughter, who was, like I said, 3 at the time, some videos, and she's like, "Yeah, I want to try that. I like their uniforms." So we went and tried out jujitsu at the first jujitsu gym that we all trained at least together. And my daughter ended up joining it. And over the next year or so, I watched her do it. And they also had Muay Thai there. And every time I saw them, I'm like, oh yeah, I would do the Muay Thai. I'm not going to be a jujitsu person, but I'll do the Muay Thai. But then after kind of getting to know the art and the sport a little more, just watching her do it and then observing the adult classes while I was there, it looked really intriguing to me, and then I was like, "I really wanna do this." But I happened to be pregnant with my son at the time, so I said, maybe I'll just wait till after I give birth, and then
Uh,
I'll worry about starting up jujitsu." So my son was born, but, like I said, like you introduced, he has special needs. My son has Down syndrome and autism, and when he was born, he had a lot of medical issues, so he didn't actually come home from the hospital till he was 2 months old. He came home on New Year's Eve of 2019 or 2018, so, like, right before 2019, and literally, I think that was a Monday or something like that, and the next Sunday, I was in my first jujitsu class, and then the rest is history, I guess. So, that's kinda how I got started, and since then, I've, like, dabbled in some Muay Thai and, I had done some kickboxing classes. I didn't really mention that earlier, but when I was in the DC area just for fitness, I would do just, kickboxing classes, but jujitsu is the one thing that just became a passion. So that's kinda where I'm at. I forget if there's another question I was supposed to answer, but that's
Nope,
it.
you
That's all I
you
got.
answered beautifully, and that gives us a better idea of just the story and what makes you who you are today. And I can already tell just from knowing a little bit more of a deeper background from all three of you women, there's definitely some correlation and things that you guys relate on, and then really unique things that makes you guys all just strong individuals. And so we'll lead into our second guest, and then we'll all come together and kind of chat about that moving forward. So thanks, Eileen.
Thank you.
Our second guest brings a powerful blend of experience, service, and purpose to the mats. She's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu with 11 years of training and is a certified defensive tactics instructor through PJJ. Professionally, she works in security with a focus on corporate and executive protection, where applying tactics and self defense principles are essential to real world environments. She's also a veteran, and that background of discipline and service clearly carries through today as she regularly teaches self defense courses for women and queer communities and has taken the initiative to start a women's class at the local gym she trains at, creating a space and opportunities for people to feel comfortable stepping onto the mats. Outside of training and teaching, she's raising 2 kids, balancing family life with a demanding career and a deep commitment to service. Her story reflects leadership and a deep belief in jujitsu as a tool for protection, empowerment, and community. And I'm thrilled to pass on the mic to Britt Harvey. So, same thing, Britt. Just give us a little bit of background of where you're from, a little bit about your upbringing, and then what led you into your martial arts journey.
Yeah. So I was born in Reno, Nevada, and I'm a military kid, so grew up kind of traveling across the country a good bit, moving every couple of years. My time was primarily between Southern California and North Carolina. After I graduated high school, I thought I wanted to be a chef, so I went to culinary school for a year, and it was deeply expensive, and I decided I didn't want to be that deep in debt, so I joined the military. But I joined the Air Force because my dad was a Marine, and he was like, never be a Marine. And I was like, I'll join the Air Force. It's nice and easy. I did airborne comms, deployed a bit, and after I did 6 years, decided I wanted to try some other things. I got really into rock climbing too my last few years in the Air Force. I did a lot of coaching and mentoring with youth programs. Probably one of my biggest passions at the time was definitely rock climbing. And then when I got out and started going to college in Charlotte, kept on with rock climbing as kind of my side job as I was going to school. Had some pretty fun adventures doing that. had the opportunity to move out here to Washington and was like, oh man, this is like gonna be even better for rock climbing. And when I got here, it is so popular that the gyms were crazy busy, and I would get maybe a handful of routes in over a few hours spent in the gym. And I was like, all right, this isn't working for me anymore. Um, and there happened to be a jujitsu gym like 2 blocks from my house, so I just was like, "This is the closest thing, and I'll definitely be able to go there a lot." So, it was more just proximity is kind of what got me into jujitsu. And honestly, when I first started it, I was like, "This is super weird. I don't understand what we're doing here."
I think we can all relate to that.
I was like, "What did I get myself into? I don't know if this is for me." And then I got pregnant with my daughter and, decided like, I took a good bit of time off for that, probably about a year and a half. And a little while after I came back, I was training like really hard, partially just to kind of get back into shape, and got my blue belt. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm in it now. And I think the passion was like really kind of slow to build up until I met Roland, and just the way he taught and the kind of what he made me feel and see with what jujitsu could be, like really changed my passion, and like his passion for it and for all of his people just kind of like sparked it in me. And since then it's definitely become like a deep, like rooted part of my life. And he also helped me get into the security industry. So he's kind of helped me on my professional side as well, and it's been a really satisfying kind of job to be into. It feels good for me. It feels easy. A lot of jobs I've kind of had were fun, but didn't really speak to me as much. And I really enjoy the industry. I had my son a little later. Took some time off for that. Injury that I got in the as well. So I've had a lot of big breaks in jujitsu, but I've always come back to it. It's been, yeah, a huge part of just my own journey and feeling good about everything else in life is yeah, jujitsu has been a big part of that.
And I think that just goes to show that like life happens, but the ability to have jujitsu part of your life throughout all of these phases is pretty powerful. And talk about an advantage that you already had coming in with all of this grip strength from climbing too. I'm like, oh yeah. I'm sure everybody's like leaving and they can't even like barely close their hands, and you're like, this is nothing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Britt. Okay, last but not least, our third guest is someone whose jujitsu journey grew hand in hand with her family and her community. She's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with 7.5 years of experience. Her martial arts story began earlier when she started kickboxing in 2008 after moving to Seattle. Once discovering jiu-jitsu, she put her oldest daughter in classes, and by the summer of 2018, she reached a point where she could afford to train alongside her entire family and was officially able to commit to jiu-jitsu herself. She's a wife to a first responder and a mother of 3 girls, homeschooling her kids while also serving as a music director at her church. Even early in her jiu-jitsu journey, she felt drawn to giving back, and she began helping coach youth classes as a blue belt. That passion has only grown. About 3.5 years ago, she started a jiu-jitsu club in the garage behind her house. And today she splits her time between that space and a gym in Bellevue, Washington, helping kids build not just skills on the mats, but character and confidence as well. Her story is one of service, persistence, and community, and I'm thrilled to have her share more of her story here today. Last but not least, we have Ariel Westfall. So, Miss Ariel, thanks for coming on the pod, and now's your time to shine.
Thank you, Kaylee. Well, I was raised in Portland, actually, so been in the Northwest pretty much my whole life. My mother's an artist. My dad's a professor, not in jujitsu, but in like history and theology. So I got kind of these two worlds of like big thinker and then like big feeler artist. So I have a lot of deep feelers and artistic creative people in my life. And I enjoy art as well, but I love to like think deeply about things. So anyway, I met my husband in 8th grade, and we were just friends for a while, and then ended up getting married after college, and he got a job as a firefighter in Seattle. So we moved up here. I'd only been to Seattle once. I was like, whatever. Okay, great. And moved up here and started our life, and joined a gym, and they had kickboxing classes, and I was like, sweet, because I used to do soccer. So I was like, okay, running with a purpose. Like, I love activity that had a purpose, like maximum efficiency for time. Like, I'm going to learn a skill while I also get in shape. I appreciate that. I don't love like arbitrary things. So it's like, okay, kickboxing, this is cool. I always loved like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I don't know why I never asked my parents to do karate or any, I don't know. I was kind of an introspective, quiet kid. So whatever. But I really enjoyed those classes, and the instructor, he introduced me to the UFC and jujitsu. I had no idea what this was. So I started watching that show, and I was like, it's interesting. Then got pregnant with my first daughter, and kept training into my third trimester with the big belly. I was like, I should probably quit, because people like are giving me looks like, what is that lady doing? And then life just, with kids, it's a lot more busy and difficult. And so I stepped back from that and just started running, because that was all I could really do. I mean, I did a little, Pilates and yoga in there, some, but it was because I couldn't work as much. Finances got tight. And so pretty much I had my second daughter and then my third daughter. And I remember being in the hospital after giving birth to my third daughter, who's 10 now, and my oldest is 15, and thinking, oh yeah, jujitsu. I wonder if there's a gym nearby. I need to get her into that at least. And found a gym close by in West Seattle and got her into classes. And it was all we could do to just afford her doing it. So I was like watching every class, and I did a free trial and then another free like women's thing, but they're like, you should join. And I'm like, I have no money. And then she stepped away from that because she wanted to try soccer, and we just couldn't do more. And then my husband went through medic school, which was hard, but it was an increase in pay. And so, I mean, he graduated from that in May. And I think by June, I was like, we're all doing this. We're all signed up. And I knew to a point, like it made sense. Like, okay, if I'm going to spend my time in anything, I'm not a huge person. So this is where I want to spend my time. I thought, well, I always liked the idea of MMA, and I don't know if I was watching Ronda Rousey or whatever. I was like, could I do this as a mom? I don't know. But I thought, I'll get my blue belt and then I'll start doing both, because I had some striking and I loved that. But I thought, I'll get a little jujitsu in and then I'll do Muay Thai as well. And then I got to blue belt and I was like, I don't know anything still. Like, this is not enough. And it just, again, the time, like I was running still when I started jujitsu, and trying to balance the time. It was good alone time because I'm an introvert. So like being surrounded by people and kids, I'm like, I reach a point and I'm like, I need to get away. I need to be alone. You people are exhausting. But anyway, yeah, I just did not have time to train all the things. I think I did for like a few weeks, like multiple classes a day even, and I could bring my girls, which was great, but it was just too much. That was like crazy. So had to step away. But kind of similar to these other ladies, like meeting Roland just confirmed this is a good use of my time. And I love the community. I remember us lining up and him looking at this huge line of people and being like, most of you are going to quit. Like if you get your blue belt, even then, most of you aren't going to make it to black belt. And me being like, okay, I don't want to call like BS because I clearly don't know as much as you. But I was like, I'm not. I just knew like, no, I have to keep doing this. This is something that'll benefit me my whole life. It's just not an option to quit. So
challenge accepted.
yeah.
And pretty amazing to see where you ladies are at today. And I think that's the coolest part is to hear everybody's individual stories and what led them into whatever shape or form of martial arts. But I can obviously really resonate with the individuals that really dive deep in the rabbit hole of jujitsu. I think there's benefits to every practice in martial arts, but I think that's why I was, really excited to talk with you ladies today is because clearly we all have a passion for it. But based on all of your guys' kind of intros and backstories, I realized that I don't even know how each of you got into what is now Journeyman Grappling, but before it was at Warrior Strength or just training under Roland Gutierrez. Because I think by the time I had started, you guys were all, in my mind, I was like, these guys are well established. They've been there for years. They started with him from way back in the day. I don't know. I just had that assumption. And so, can you guys give a little bit? Because I know Britt and Ariel, you kind of touched on when you met Roland, but can you guys explain how you even each got started or introduced to his training? And then once you ideally just decided, this is it. I'm gonna stick with this community.
So I think all of us started it. Well, I started it. It wasn't called CAA at the time, but we all were at CAA at some point when Roland took over one of the coaching spots. He wasn't the head coach yet. I think he was still a brown belt for a while. Then I had my own gym in Burien, and I sold it to the woman who owns CAA. And Roland kind of took over the head coaching spot there, and that's where I spent the most time. And then still going to the main CAA in West Seattle and training under him. And he was also teaching, I think, in Covington and on like Thursday nights, like super late at night. And so I would like do my Thursday with him in Burien, and then like we'd both like haul ass over to Covington and get to that class. And I think I'd be doing jujitsu for like 5 hours straight on Thursdays. It was glorious.
Wow.
But yeah, I think that was how I got introduced to him. And then once the gym kind of dissolved and like other things were happening, I just was like, I'm just going to follow Roland wherever he goes. And, that connection with him and the way he coaches. And for me, it's like his standards. He has such a high standard.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine getting a belt from someone without that level of a standard. That it just helps me with my own imposter syndrome feelings. Like, I'm like, I just have to tell myself, Roland wouldn't just give me this shit. So, I feel good. And anytime I feel crazy, I'm like, Roland has good standards. Yeah.
I love that. And super essential. Aileen and Ariel, you have anything to add to that? So CAA was in West Seattle?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Ariel, you and I both started at CAA, and that's how I met Roland. And then kind of to play off of what Britt said, when he left CAA, well, actually, I kind of left CAA first, but we kind of all went close to the same time over to Warrior Strength. And so we kind of just followed him around. And then he moved to Ording and was like, I want to open my gym here. And he's like, you guys should move to Ording too. Get out of West Seattle.
No
My
big
husband
deal.
and I are like, that's crazy. Why would we do that? And then we're like, oh, wait, actually, we can have land down there and live a little bit more of a quaint lifestyle down there. So my husband and I did actually move to Ording before they opened the gym. And then Roland wanted to introduce the community to jujitsu. So he started offering a jujitsu class at the multi-purpose room at the library in town. And so we would coach the kids and do the adult class at the multi-purpose room in the library before the gym was even in existence. And then we kind of started getting a little bit of a following there. Although I have to say, probably most of the people that trained with us there aren't training with us now at the gym when it did open. But yeah, I mean, it's just to kind of play off of what Britt said, like Roland's energy on the mat, his positivity, and it's just infectious. Like you get on the mat and you're like, I want to make this guy proud of me. I want him to like what I'm doing right now. I want him to think I'm doing something awesome. He just like makes you want to be better. And so it's just been a really positive experience to train under him. And it's just been awesome to like coach side by side with him in the kids' classes. And so it's, it's just kind of our lives. Like the gym is our life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I started, I could only do the beginner level classes because my kids were in public school and the adult classes were late. So I didn't even know Roland at first. And yeah, we had to get home and get to bed. But I think it was, he started doing afternoon classes. And so I started doing afternoon classes for a while where I was in like 2 a day. And that's where, at lunch we could talk and I really got to know him. But I think his philosophy of just like he's on the mat with us. He's not like do this, and I don't know. He's out there suffering. He doesn't require anything of us that he doesn't first require of himself. And that's like my parenting philosophy, like, or really like leadership. Like I never did well with leaders who were like, do it because I say so. I was like, what? So I always wanted to be a parent who's like, if I'm going to tell you to do something, I have a reason. And I will tell you that reason so that I can build trust. And then, sometimes I just have to tell you to do it, but there's enough trust there that, my kids want to still obey. And he does that. And so it just kind of was like, okay, I can do this. Yeah, I can follow this guy.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we ended up over in Bellevue, which was a commute for everybody. But it was like, but we're family now. I don't want to follow anybody else.
Yeah. And the beauty of just practicing what you preach is it's very clear.
Totally.
And so can you ladies explain a little bit for people that aren't in the journeyman grappling community or world? He explained when he was on the podcast a little bit about, standards, expectations, tradition. Can you guys explain just from a student's perspective, what are some of those kind of clear standards or expectations that he has around the traditions, but as well as the promotions?
I mean, you can start like super practical. We bow on and off the mat. I mean, I think he's pretty big into you don't just throw out traditions because they seem silly to you. You have to know where you came from in order to know where you're going. And so bowing on and off the mat, keeping your nails clipped, washing your gi, like having respect for yourself, your gear, folding your gi after class. There's a way to do that. The way we tie our belt matters every time. Bowing to each other after class. I remember one time we had a birthday party. Was that for one of your kids, Aileen?
But yeah, it was probably Madly's birthday party.
It was at a gymnastics place. And we show up and I mean, I don't know if you guys did this, but I came a little late. And I bowed onto the mat and I didn't even realize I did it. And Aileen and our friend Sienna were laughing. It was like, it's impulse, like honor. But that's ingrained into us. I'd rather, and I tell the kids I coach, it's better to err on the side of more honor than not. That just seems like a good life philosophy in general.
Mm-hmm. Britt or Aileen, do you guys have anything else besides bowing on and off the mat, washing your gi, clipping your nails, other things that you feel like is tradition?
More profound.
Well, no, but really though, I mean, I think you go to some places and that sounds so simple, but it's not enforced. Or, I mean, Roland will call you out if your belt is not tied, if you do not bow on the mat, if your nails are too long, if you stink. And so, and those are, I think to have a strong community where everybody feels comfortable and have that mutual respect, those little things add up. So Britt or Aileen, any other little or, what you guys see as big traditions or standards that he sets?
Mm-hmm. I think promotions. I mean, a lot of gyms don't do promotions like we do. I mean, some gyms, like you're at the end of the class, they just like tie a new belt around your waist. But with Roland, it's a production. Like your first belt with him, you have to go through a test and it's grueling. Like one of the hardest things, sometimes the hardest thing you've ever done in your life, depending on your life. And other times, definitely in the top few hardest things you've ever done in your life. And it's not for everybody. I mean, yeah, I would say I hadn't seen anyone fail until recently. You know, you can fail it, and it's not easy. It is a mental test. It's a test of grit. It's not a test of aptitude or skill. He knows that you're already at that belt skill wise if he's testing you. So it's really, as he likes to say, it's to see whether you can like, push through the fog and keep going and not give up. And it's hard. So the fact that he does that it just gives you so much more respect for the people who have gone through it because, like I said, I mean, it's just a real test of mental toughness, honestly.
Yeah, he says you need to learn something about yourself. And you do.
I think it's a good way too of like, well, one, the perseverance to keep going when you think you
Yeah.
hit your wall and you're like, nope, actually, you can push right through that and keep going. And the humility that you need to have to realize that this is kind of an individual sport. It's about your own growth and where you're going. But at the end of the day, you cannot do it without a really good community to like support
Yeah.
you and prop you up. And every accomplishment you have is because of community that has helped you get there. And every
Yeah.
big learning jump you have, and even the lows, like when you're in a low, you know, having that good community to just be like, sometimes you're the one just getting smashed every day. But when it's with people that you feel good with and safe with, they'll kind of lift you up at the end of class, and you'll just be like, man, that just got my ass kicked all day, and you just keep going because you know that's what you're there for. And kind of like Aileen said, like you want Roland to like at least be like, good job, because he's not like really big on a lot of kudos. But if you just get like a like a little head nod, you're like, yeah, okay, I can.
Subtle
So
but sweet.
yeah, it goes a long way.
Yeah. The other topic, and I don't know if it's taboo, but the gauntlet. Like, I know there are lots of feelings and opinions on the gauntlet in the jujitsu community, but it is something that, like, I mean, I know it seems like archaic and people are like, it's hazing. And I'm like, we know it's hazing. We know it's hazing. It's consensual hazing.
Explain what that is for people that don't
So
know.
the gauntlet is when, after a belt promotion, you walk down a line of everyone lined up and they whip you with their belts. It sounds very barbaric. It is, I guess, very barbaric, but I don't know. I've just never felt like it was a negative thing. But there are a lot of people who have a lot of negative feelings about it in the jujitsu community. We actually have someone we used to train with, and she posted a video of her gauntlet on social media. And somebody she had competed against like blasted her and was like, I'm so sorry you feel like you had to do this for your promotion. She's like, I didn't feel like I had to do this for my promotion. I wanted to do that. I was excited to walk the gauntlet. It doesn't feel good. I'm not gonna lie, but for some reason, it is just a sign of respect of everybody else. Like, and
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a tradition that, and people will argue it's not a tradition. I guess I shouldn't say that, but for us, it's a tradition to do it, and I just can't even imagine not doing it.
Yeah, it'd be weird.
And I don't know what that originates from, but I know there's gyms that don't do it. I know there's a lot of gyms that still do it. And in my perspective, I think, especially on the way promotions are done in Roland's gym, you have already gone through everything as grueling as you could possibly think of. Your body is at a tipping point where honestly, when you're kind of going through that, it's like a sense of relief because you're like, this is it. This is the last
100%.
bit of torture. And at that point, it's almost not even like torture because it's maybe just like a little bit more aggressive pat on the back of like, hey, here you are.
Yeah.
But
I think I would add, I mean, that I totally agree. And it's like the culmination of everything that's happened, for the 2 hours before. But I think especially because for women, I think it's more specific to our culture. For women, there are some rites of passage. Like, I mean, we get our period. I mean, all of us have had babies. Like, there's kind of something to, I'm a woman. And it's hard now, I think, for guys. Like, what defines you as a man? And so I guess I think it's been the most moving for me to watch young guys go through that and really learn something about themselves. Like, I've seen them just go, you're like, are you in there? Like,
Yeah.
whoa, what's happening? But then by the end, getting their belt and going through the gauntlet, you can just see it in their demeanor. They've achieved something that was missing before. And that, I mean, historically, like, rites of passage are a big deal in cultures. It just does something to your soul that is really healthy. And it's just a unique thing for men. I don't know. I think
For sure. So for somebody that's brand new, and if one of you guys don't want to explain it, I can do the best that I can. But if you guys are going to walk somebody through what a promotion is like, okay? So I'll start by, I was trying to think of, like, even when mine was coming up, because when I was at Warrior Strength training under Roland, I was a white belt at that time, and I can't even remember if he fully said, Kaylee, Carson, and so, you're going to be you're doing your blue belt test. I don't even know if he straightforward said it. It was I think he had messaged us a couple weeks prior, and it was like, there's going to be promotions this day. And then he said, hydrate, make sure you hydrate. And then as it got closer, he's messaged us again saying, make sure you hydrate before this. Almost like you're going to be there and you're going to be hydrated, AKA you are going to be going through this. And so clearly you kind of already know. I don't know if as you get further into your guys' belts, if he keeps that same kind of messaging, because clearly now you ladies know you're going to be going through your promotions for black belt, and that's not a secret. But through your guys' other experiences, was it that same messaging system? And then will you guys walk through the day of what is expected and how that looks different from a normal class?
Okay, I'm going to pull the back in the day. Back in the day, you got 24 hours notice before your belt test. Literally 24 hours. Sometimes you didn't even see the message. And our friend Bill shows up and is testing and has no idea and still had to do his test.
Poor Bill.
So yeah, you got a 24-hour notice back then. That's not the case anymore. But yeah.
So you were just like stressed. As soon as you got your last stripe, it was like,
oh no,
any day.
Yeah. Yeah. So, once you got that, then after your first test, though, you don't test with him again. So your other belt promotions, I mean, sometimes you know about them because you hear it through the grapevine, but most of the time you don't even know. It's like he'll have a hard class and then he'll promote you at the end and he'll give you the belt then. So the black belt promotion is different because it's a ceremony, as he likes to say. So it looks a little bit different than a test, I guess. I don't know. It looks pretty similar to me, but what do I know? But, yeah, after your first belt with him, whatever that is, if you come in as a higher belt, then you have to test a purple belt or whatever it might be. And then it's just kind of like a merited belt promotion at that point. But I'll let somebody else describe what it is.
For the black belt test, or ceremony,
or any test. I think
all of our tests,
right, any belt.
the same.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this the last one we had. Like, there's so many little rituals that our tests have, and I think one of you called them a production, and it really is, and I think that's what makes it feel so meaningful. It's not just you show up to a class and then you get a belt. It's like, we start our warm-ups, which warm-ups are a normal thing we do, like line drills, but you're going hard for at least a solid hour of warm-ups. And if you're testing, you're doing all of those warm-ups twice. So you're doing twice what everybody else is doing.
Or 3 times.
Yeah, if you're
an athlete.
Yeah. He scales it to, your age, your capabilities. If he knows you can do more, he's going to set the bar higher for you. I think we had some guys over the age of 60 testing, and their bar was adjusted appropriately as well. And so we do our line drills, and then you go into positionals where you're in a bottom position, essentially. Well, you do takedowns and then a bottom position, and you just kind of he just wants to see you go through all these things. And At that part, it kind of feels like the test part because you're like, oh man, I got to get out of these positions the right way. But he already knows what you're at and what you're capable of. So really, you're just sitting there, fresh bodies, kind of putting you through it in those positions. And then the grand finale is the rolling with everybody in the gym. So all the upper belts kind of get a go at you first, and you're just doing full matches. Again, all these fresh bodies, and you're dead. You know, lights are on, nobody's home. Your body's just kind of doing jujitsu at that point. Your brain's not really thinking much anymore. And then once you roll with everybody's rolled with Roland at the end, and subbed him. He lets you at some point. You kind of line it up. Everybody gets their belts. And then the gauntlet after that, and then pictures, and then we do shots afterwards. Everybody does a nice cheers, says what they got to say, and then there's usually after the black belt ceremonies. To date, we've had kind of a potluck after each one. I'm just kind of have a celebratory party, and everybody get to enjoy the community a little more. And I think every single aspect of that it feels so meaningful, and like Ariel was calling it, like a rite of passage. You feel so much like you've really put in the work to earn something. And I don't know, for me, that's something I need to feel like I truly got where I, wanted to be.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you guys for kind of walking everybody through that. As you guys are just kind of replaying it, I'm like, man, I'm just like thinking about all of these past experiences. And it is funny. I mean, I think, as somebody new coming in who had trained at a different place before, moved, and you can sense the culture and community is different. But then I remember somebody else was getting, I think, a belt test, and you could just see everybody like elevate, and was like, oh, like it was this thing. And I was like, okay, cool, and then I was like, yeah, I think I can make it. It was just kind of whatever. Like, I still felt nonchalant. I didn't understand the extent of what it was until I went to one and witnessed it. And it truly is, I think that does put journeyman, sets them apart from a lot of other gyms, is because of that feeling and how you can be inspired by one another on the daily, especially during promotions. But I remember being there, and you sense the energy from the time that you get in there. I mean, you step in and it just feels different. And then as you're going through and watching somebody pretty much suffer, and go through what's so hard, and they break, and then they get back up, and they break, and it's like a whole battle of just breaking, and like, what are you capable of? And then to actually go through that yourself, it is amazing. And so I mean, because I do think it's cool. And after witnessing and going through one myself, I completely understood, because that says a lot about a gym community in the first place too. Is people are self-centered. We're all living our own lives. You have families, you have whatever, you have jobs. And so for everybody as a whole to be so committed when others are also getting tested, I think shows something. Because I think people can show up for certain individuals depending on how close you are in your relationships, but you can definitely sense that everybody at least tries to make it when there's a promotion, and that's why it's packed out and there is that energy in there, which is cool. I don't think that just happened overnight. And so yeah. So that leads into my next question is, as it's getting closer to your guys' black belt promotions, what's just been happening internally, and does it feel different than some of these earlier belt promotions for you?
Well, I would say pretty much blue belt was like, yeah. And then it's like the next day you're like, oh, I have not arrived. And then purple belt, brown belt, those were complete surprises. I mean, hard class, but we have hard classes all the time. But I mean, purple and brown for me, I was like, oh, I did so crappy. But again, to roll in standard, like, you get this imposter syndrome. And I'm like, that's pretty much the only thing I want to question on. I'm like, are you sure? Like, I don't feel great. Like, I do not know enough. And so I would say that's only like heightened with black belt, because black belt's like what other people know. Even if they don't know jujitsu, they're like karate. Like, I've had people be like, oh, you do jujitsu. you a black belt? And I'm like, well, one, you don't even know what that means. Like, you don't know what that means for me. And it's different than other martial arts. So there's just so much more expectation to know stuff. I mean, it took me several years to just learn some basic Japanese judo terms. I was like, Tamagotchi, what? Like, I just couldn't remember. So it's just heightened that, yeah.
Yeah, and I think you speak on knowing all the things that's like up here and that you feel is the knowledge that you're gaining over years and years of experience, but then you have to apply it too. Yeah. And that's, I mean, like that's a two-part thing, as you ladies know, and we all have good days and we all have bad days, and we think we know something and then we get humbled very quickly. And so, yeah, I think you speak to that very, very well, but it's complex. For anybody that has trained martial arts in any realm, there's a huge mental and cognitive capacity that has to be incorporated into the practice. But then it's, can I carry it over and do something with it? And so, yeah, it's a beauty, but it's also a struggle.
He also, like, to speak to his standard, I remember him saying when he was realizing, I need to, like, train some of these upper belts to coach if I'm not there. And he said, if you cannot pull off a move on your belt or higher, you should not be teaching that. So there's no, like, I saw it on YouTube and I can kind of halfway do it. Like, and we're training with people who are massively larger than us. So, like, I remember being like, oh no, I can teach people how to shrimp. Like, that's it. I don't know. You know, I was like, there was like crisis. But I mean, again, just that high bar. Like, you better live and die by something and really understand the nuance of it, which he requires of himself. So again, being able to do it, I think I do a lot of things that I don't quite understand how to teach yet. So that's like another level of understanding.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Ariel. I don't remember. I had my fourth stripe on my belt, but I don't remember at what point it was. It was like a month or so ago. And my daughter was like, Mom, are you excited to get your black belt? I'm like, no. I'm like, no. She's like, why not? I'm like, I am not ready for this. Don't feel ready. I don't feel even close. So I think it's just, and it's probably like that, I feel like it was like that with every new belt, but this one just feels like it has so much more gravity. Realistically, this is the last belt we're going to get in jiu-jitsu ever. Maybe if I turn like 90 or something, I'll get my coral belt one day or red belt or whatever. But yeah, it just feels like heavier. And, kind of to Ariel's point, Roland's been out of town this week for work. And so I've been covering all the kids' classes by myself. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to have a theme for the week. We're going to talk about the back and do stuff with the back. And then I ran out of material like on Wednesday. I'm like, oh crap, what else am I going to teach them now? I'm like, what do I even know? So it's like you're trying to remember what techniques that to teach. Cause I feel like when we're rolling half the time, we just know so many things. So just by muscle memory, and it's just, we're so familiar with it. It's like, what is the actual technique that we were taught that I can now relay to somebody else? And sometimes even trying to bring that to memory, it's like, crap, I should probably write some of this stuff down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Britt?
I think similar thing as what everybody else saying. And I think this belt has coming with a lot more imposter syndrome feelings, and I'm doing a lot more reminding myself that I have stayed with Roland because I trust him and I respect him, and I've seen him hold people back for all kinds of reasons, whether it's fitness or what they're doing on the mat, or, maybe they're just not holding a high enough standard for themselves yet. And he coaches people through that. So knowing that there is no thing given by Roland that wasn't earned is what I have to keep reminding myself of. And knowing that when he gives people black belts, he expects you to be able to coach too. He wants to make sure you can teach, and that he's giving you something so that you can keep passing on what he's given us. So it does feel heavy. I'm excited, but more in that, oh my God, this is happening way.
Yeah. Yeah, as it should though. And I don't know, I try to put myself in your shoes and I can't even fathom, where you guys are at right now. I think the cool thing to me is like what an awesome experience you guys get to go through to impact others. I mean, Aileen, you're just talking about like the conversation that you have with your daughter, and I'm sure Britt and Ariel, you guys have had similar conversations with your kids regarding jujitsu in some way, shape, or form. And I know some, if not all of your guys' kids practice, I don't know. But I think with them, as well as all of us baby belts, looking up, and it almost is enlightening a little bit to know that, yeah, you guys have doubt and you have, kind of this fear around it or like uncertainty, but also explaining how you're getting through that and how you're also able to grab onto the confidence and excitement and the pressure that comes with it and realizing like, okay, yeah, I'm doing this, And so I don't know. I think you guys are just in such a cool spot, and in my opinion, it's obviously very well deserved. But who gives a crap about what I think? At the same time, too, it also shows the importance of having a professor or coach that you really believe in and that isn't providing fluff, I guess you could say. He's legit in terms of earning and getting that ranking. So moving on to our next question. If you had to explain your philosophy of jujitsu to somebody brand new, what would you say the art is really about beyond submissions and competition?
I don't know. This one's a tough one. It was like, like my personal philosophy for how I roll or, overall jujitsu, because I feel like everybody kind of relates to jujitsu a little differently and what it gives us. I think something that I've taken out of jujitsu is that it's definitely not magic. Like if someone's way bigger and way stronger, it means a lot, and there are a lot of ways that I think, all of us are on the smaller end of the people in our gym, and we definitely go against some bigger people, and we can hold our own, especially like more defensively and even, oftentimes offensively being able to do things. But it's a struggle. Like it's hard. And I think at the end of the day, that's kind of what it's about is being able to struggle through the hard things and feel okay knowing that, sometimes your win just might be that you didn't get submitted, and that's okay. Like, you're learning something that's really difficult. I still feel like I know this much of all of what jiu-jitsu encompasses because it feels like there's no end to what you can learn and what you can master with this sport.
Yeah.
I think the infinite growth possibility is what I like about it. There's just more ways to go always.
I think that's an addicting part of it too.
I don't know if I have a whole lot to add. I think it's also just a confidence builder, I think. I definitely feel like I'm a more confident person doing jujitsu. And I think a lot of that is knowing that I can protect myself somewhat in a bad situation. Not saying I'm going to go like, murder somebody who's trying to attack me or something like that. But, I have, I'm a female. I've traveled places and I have been, in bad spots before and didn't know jujitsu then and terrified out of my mind. And not that I wouldn't be terrified now, but I feel like if the same thing happened to me now, I would be a little calmer and my approach would be different than it was back, way before I had ever started jujitsu. So it's just like that kind of that self-defense aspect of it too, that just makes me feel like a more confident person in that way.
Yeah. Ariel, anything else to add?
Well, there's a lot of little, like Roland calls them fortune cookies that we learn around jujitsu, but you hear people saying jujitsu is truth on the mat. I think that jujitsu is like, it's not an island of a concept. Like it's a lifestyle that the truths that you learn there really translate into every other aspect of your life. So like, well, one, show up. I think as moms, we know, like, if you're sick, well, food still has to be made. Like, things still have to get done. You just have to show up, even if you feel like garbage. That's a win. You might get submitted every time, but like you showed up, and that consistency, like you're going to grow because you just continue to show up. So that's like one aspect. And then injuries, like we train when we're injured. Like Aileen, like, rolled out of surgery with this gnarly scar and like showed up because you can learn something. Like I haven't, thank God, like I've never had any catastrophic injuries, but I've had, some decent ones that a number of people would be like, oh, I'm just going to take 6 weeks off. It's like, no, actually, I'm going to, bandage it up and get back out there and do what I can. And I have to learn how to, like, I know I've torn my AC joint several times. The first time was just from pressure. It wasn't from impact because we are a pressure heavy gym. So, I I couldn't pull, I couldn't push, I couldn't lean on it. So all those like get on your hip, like I just couldn't use that. So I had to think around the problem. And so when life, hands you something that's a problem, rather than being like, oh, time out, you have to, okay, what can I do? I can't move this 300-pound person. So what can I do? So I think that applies to everything. And I can use that in parenting too. Like, oh, you have this problem. Okay, what can you do? And just keep moving forward to not give up and keep showing up. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And that kind of leads perfectly into my next question. And I think you guys would agree as you're coming into black belt, it's not like you're like, okay, my work here is done. So long, jiu-jitsu. It's been fun. I think a lot of people that get into the practice and they often describe it as a lifetime practice. So for you guys, is there anything else that you would add that has really just kept you coming back during various seasons of life when motivation was low or when life felt especially heavy? What kept you keeping on with it?
Well, for me, being a mom and then my husband being a first responder, he's been through a lot, like PTSD, and being a public servant in that way has been a difficult seasons in our marriage and family. And I think that just knowing I just have to go to training, and coaching is a part of that, like knowing people depend on you and taking ownership, being able to show up for people that want to learn and is a big motivator of, okay, I want to give back and these people depend on me, so I'm going to show up. But knowing when you train hard, problems just look smaller. Like you're like, it'll work out because you're like dead after practice. That's been helpful.
For sure.
Yeah, for me, I think it's just so good for my mental health. It's a great stress reliever. It's really hard to think about anything else in your life when you're on the mat and just trying not to die.
Yep.
So it's great for me, especially someone who has a hard time like turning my brain off. And you're just kind of forced to do it. I mean, if you think about anything else while you're on the mat, you're getting murdered. That to me is huge. And when I don't get to train, I can feel it. I'm sure my family can feel it. It's definitely harder. And, with work stress, especially too, it's great to have that outlet for me to be able to relieve that stress somewhere. And I mean, in a healthy way.
Yeah, I feel like for me, coming back has always been easy because like anytime I had to take a break, I'm just itching to get back on the mat. I don't do well with meditation. That's not a way I can clear my mind, but I guess with like traditional meditation. But I view jujitsu and I kind of felt a similar way about rock climbing. It feels like a form of meditation because, yeah, like Aileen said, there's no way you can do anything but be in the moment. You are aware of what your body's doing. You're aware of almost every single part of your body, and you're just thinking about what's happening right now. And if it really helps just kind of have that reset. And I think my body also does really well with the struggle that comes with Roland's style of classes occasionally where you're just like, wow, have never sweat this much in my life. And I think my body needed that. Like I just sweat out every bad thing that has ever happened to me. And yeah, for me, it's always been such a good way to reset. And same thing, like everybody can tell if I haven't trained in a while. It's better for all of us if I go to the
Yeah. I think completely relatable too. There's a lot of parts of our lives where things are maybe not going our way, or we're kind of low, or we're being challenged at where maybe going to work or doing other things, it does feel like a challenge in those moments, or being around certain individuals or whatever it may be, where I feel like I've found myself most of the time in my lowest of lows. That's almost when I've needed training the most. And that's where I feel like I've almost resonated and almost helped me through some of those difficult times. And so, from your guys' experience, why do you think jujitsu is such a powerful tool or experience for women specifically?
One thing I like about it, and this is something I talk about anytime I teach a self-defense class for whoever it's for, is the stress inoculation. And kind of what Aileen spoke to, like, you're fighting every time in jujitsu. It's not just about learning a move, but it's like pressure testing that move over and over again. And when you're doing that, you're teaching your body to stay calm in situations that are inherently not calm. This is a dangerous thing. And we're in like a little safety bubble, but I'm getting a chance to fight and test what I'm learning. And knowing that, especially at Journeyman, I know those guys aren't taking it easy on me. They're giving it to me, and it lets me feel good that, hey, if I were to get into an altercation out in the real world, like, I feel pretty good, like, that I could hold my own enough to get help for myself or someone else. And just your brain can slow down enough to solve the problem in front of you and do that over and over again until you find the right solution to help you out in that situation.
I think my sister, I've been trying to like get her to try jujitsu, and she doesn't live around here, but I'm like, go find a gym and go try it. But she's like, no, the second somebody like gets on top of me, I would just feel like I'm smothering and I would panic. And I'm like, that's why you need to train jujitsu. I still haven't been successful yet in trying to get her on the mat, but next time she comes to visit, I'm gonna make her come to a class. But yeah, I think, again, what Britt was just saying, like, it's just learning how to calm yourself in a situation that's not calm. And it happens like almost every day on the mat. And there's heard people make comments like, when you're a girl in jujitsu, people probably just take it so easy on you. I'm like, well, these guys breathing says otherwise. So I'm like, this guy is dripping in sweat and he's pantsing real hard. So I don't think he's trying to go easy. So I really do, to Brett's point, feel like, I would be able to get myself to a better situation in a bad one. So
Ariel, anything to add?
I don't think so. I think it builds confidence. I tend to identify with a larger person. Does that make sense? Like, I think I'm bigger than I am. And I can tell when I do certain moves, and I'm like, what am I thinking right now? Like, this is going to fail, or it just does fail. I'm like, I'm going for it. But I think that confidence, like, going, like, I really don't think, I mean, it's a bit of risk management. I know that size matters, and weapons are going to matter if I'm out on the street, but I don't think I'm afraid. Like, I've put myself in the position of that risk assessment so much. Not as much, I haven't trained as much like weapons related, not like Britt by any means, but I do just think I have the confidence that I'm like, oh yeah, I could, get away to where I need help, could get help for myself at least.
Yeah. Yeah. And you guys have touched on confidence building, stress relief. Is there anything else that you feel like jiu-jitsu has influenced as far as mental health or sense of identity, whether it be inside or outside the gym, and especially during some of your major life transitions?
For me, jiu-jitsu, I think, has been huge on my mental health. I also have PTSD, and I think it has like restored to me like this sense of confidence and control after that kind of trauma, and in a way that like built confidence without like boosting my ego. Because one thing ego does is check your ego constantly. So be able to learn that kind of confidence without, oh man, like I'm like the best there ever was. It's hard to have that idea in your head when you're getting your ass kicked a lot too. And it has provided this really good community, and in a community where you don't necessarily have to show up and tell everybody your life story and what you've been through. but they'll just be there for you. Because you can kind of tell, especially, with people at Journeyman, I know that most people there probably share a lot of values that I hold close. And so it's kind of this little community that you get handed to you that's, these are going to be fairly like-minded humans, and jiu-jitsu just keeps staying the same. So no matter what I'm going through mentally or, in life, I can come back to the mats and it's going to be jiu-jitsu and it's going to be the same thing. It's just like a nice constant in my life that has been really great and a good structure.
Yeah.
I think like I'm a totally different person now than I was before I did jujitsu in a good way. It kind of like reframed I was probably always this person, but I had to give up who I thought I was before jujitsu to be the person I am now in jujitsu. I think that's just because I always was involved in some kind of exercise. I was a runner or, doing mom's fitness classes in West Seattle or whatever. But I always thought of myself as a super healthy person and good habits. And I don't know, when I started jujitsu, I just completely changed my mind on that. We had these friends back in West Seattle, and our primary time together was drinking and playing games and whatever. And a lot of that changed. And I feel like we lost friends joining the jiu-jitsu community because our values kind of shifted. And I really saw some of the things in my life that weren't healthy before. And now I feel like I am a healthier person mentally, emotionally, and physically.
Yeah, that's great. Ariel?
I'm not sure that I became a different person in the same way. I think it like called to things that I already knew were true. I don't know if that makes sense. Well, I guess as I've grown older, I'm a pretty black and white person. Like I want to do the right thing. For anybody who like loves the Enneagram, I'm a 1. So I'm like, what is the right thing to do? And sometimes there's this gray area and I'm like, what? But I don't know. So I tend to be a rule follower and I love black and white things. But I guess just having a bigger yes towards jujitsu. And I would say in other things in my life too means that I have to say no to other things. And it's not like that's wrong. I mean, okay, I'll give a silly example. Like cutting my nails. I'm a girl. I'm probably more girly than Aileen and Britt in some ways. But like the clothes I wear, like there's all these conscious decisions that I've made because I train. So I don't keep my nails long anymore. I used to have a little, I used to care more about that. But now my mindset is more like I have to say no to that because I won't be able to train, or my recovery will suck, or I won't be able to show up for people. So I think in that sense, it's helped me to see where there's just certain things that aren't for me anymore. I mean, like clothes. I like wearing dresses and girly things, but I can't as much or even at all anymore because I can't do activities in these. Like, could I take somebody down if I needed to in this? So I don't know if that relates to mental health. But I guess.
But definitely does highlight almost the sense of identity, right? And so for the years that you guys have trained, it clearly is a part of who you are today. But it is pretty fascinating. I think we get so wrapped up in it that we don't even take into account all the little things that we do adjust in our lives because of our love for training, like getting our nails done or setting up our family schedule and our meal times, or, the list goes on of all the little adjustments that you make on the day and night, just simply so you can prioritize getting that in. So yeah, I think that was beautifully said from all three of you. Okay, so clearly you guys have all trained at different gyms outside of the one that you are now, your kind of home base. So what have those experiences taught you about jiu-jitsu culture and how the art is expressed within your guys' city because you're all in the Seattle area, if not country. I don't know if you guys have trained in other states or if not internationally.
I live in the South Seattle area still, so I train. Typically, my day-to-day training is at a different gym than my home gym. And I like it, and it's great people still. And I've trained at a bunch of other gyms, and I think every time I go to gyms, I'm very aware because Journeyman is so, I think, so different than most gyms, and I've had to learn to not be as judgmental about other people's styles and kind of what they do. And I think the way I've framed it in my head to help me is that I meet a lot of people and I'm like, oh, you would like Journeyman. But I meet a lot of people and I'm like, you would like Jiu-Jitsu. You would not like Journeyman. But I got a gym for you. Like, let me tell you about the legit that I've been to. Great people. Because there's a lot of gyms that are not as into the martial art part, like the bowing on and off the mats that I find is really great. Is not part of their culture. Kind of like the going really hard or the belt test stuff is not in a lot of gyms, things that we have. But I think that allows jiu-jitsu to be a lot more accessible to more people. Like if everybody trained like we do at Journeyman, there might not be many people doing jiu-jitsu in the world. So I love that those opportunities are out there, and it's fun to go to other gyms and kind of pressure test what I've learned and what I know, and how that like heavy pressure and relentless style of Journeyman kind of holds up in other situations. I'm thankful for the community I have at Journeyman, and it's also been every time I go to other gyms, it's great to see what they have and what they offer, and a lot of places are like a little more sport jiu-jitsu than traditional, and it kind of always makes me have a greater appreciation for the jiu-jitsu I care about. But I am glad that it's all out there and that diversity exists so that we get more people out there that we can train with and roll against in a bigger, broader community.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I've trained at other places, and before Roland and Jonna opened up Journeyman in Ording, it was quite a commute for me to go from Ording to Warrior Strength every day. In the summertime, sometimes taking me 2 hours one way to get there. And so there was another local gym that I would pop in every now and then. We had someone we used to train with at CAA that was teaching a women's class there. And so I was like, we'll go there occasionally. And they were trying to get us to come more regularly. And I was like, I can't even imagine it. I thought about it for a hot second. I'm like, no, it's not the same. I can't do it. It's like finding, you know, your community and then going somewhere else because it's more convenient, or finding a good church. You find that place you want to go. You're going to drive to go to that place. It's just where you feel like you belong. And to Britt's point, we're not for everybody. And I say that a lot. And, other parents that I've talked to whose kids train elsewhere and they're looking around, and like sometimes their kids are big into competitions. And I'm like, look, we have competitors at our gym, no doubt, but that's not our focus. We train because we love it and we want to learn all the things. When you are a competition focused gym, oftentimes you're learning sequences that work under pressure in a tournament. And the parameters are different. Oftentimes, you're working on something that really works under that 3 minute timeline or 5 minute timeline that there is in a tournament. But, you know, as you've experienced, Kaylee, we don't put timers on for our rolls, especially Roland's rolling. That might be a 20-minute plus roll that you've got going on. And you train jujitsu differently under those circumstances. I just decided in October to do the Revolution tournament because I saw someone signed up at my weight and my belt. And I'm like, this might be my last chance to, do it at brown belt. And I was like, well, we'll just see how it goes. And I just don't roll that way. Like to me, getting to the submission as quickly as possible isn't the way I like to roll. It's not what I enjoy. I like developing the game. I like, working moves and practicing stuff and countering back and forth. And I just feel like not all gyms are like that. Some gyms really want to get those gold medals, and there's nothing wrong with that. It just kind of depends what you're looking for in a jiu-jitsu gym. For me and what my family and I are trying to accomplish, we do it because we love it. My daughter is a competitive wrestler, and if you ask her, do you like wrestling or jiu-jitsu better? She's going to say, well, I love jujitsu the most, but I don't like to compete in jujitsu. I like to compete in wrestling. So it's just interesting. Like, I've been hearing from a 12-year-old that perspective. She likes the grind of wrestling and the tournament and wrestling, and it's a lot smaller rule set. So there's fewer things you can do. But jujitsu, there's as Britt and Ariel mentioned earlier, there's so much to know. There's so much to know. There's so much to learn. It's endless. You can never know everything there is to know. And so I think that intrigue is what keeps people going. And if that's not what excites you, like journeyman might not be the place. May not be the place for you. I mean, we teach crazy stuff to people on day one of their jujitsu journey when they show up at the gym. Roland does not necessarily tailor class to the new person that's showing up for a trial class. And sometimes it's trial by fire. Sorry, we're doing, spider guard on your very first day, or sorry, we're doing barambolos on your first day. My bad, but here you go.
Yeah. I I haven't been to a lot of gyms in our area because, uh, again, time. So, um, I can say that our experience in journeyman with the, building confidence, I'm not afraid to go to any gym. Like I know whatever the max they can hand me, like I can deal with that. Like they're not going to have harder warm-ups than I can deal with or harder rolls than I can deal with. And I'm willing to roll with whoever wants to roll. So, yeah, I find that really valuable. I love to travel, and that's a priority for our family. So I've tried to visit a gym in different countries I've gone to. So, like last year, we were in Greece. And I found a gym in Athens, which was awesome. It was great. And I've been very fortunate to find gyms that have at least a little bit similar philosophy, or I haven't felt totally like, whoa, this is a completely different culture. I mean, they're all going to be different, but yeah, Athens. And then 2 years ago, I was in Spain, went to a great gym in San Sebastian, trained there. And then I've been to a gym in Puerto Rico. I'm going to Zurich next month, and I am hoping to find a gym. I'm looking at one to go and train at, which I'm like, great. Now I have to show up with a with the black belt. That's this new gym. Like that's because Roland's like, oh, you don't have to take a gi because that's way bulky, but take your belt. And I'm like, are you sure? But whatever. I think it's been great. The sense of community. I mean, for me personally, I've been to other churches too around the world, and I think it's similar when you find like-minded people. It's so cool to go to a country you've never been to, and I know that I can find a church or a gym and find my people. I'm like, we're like instant friends because this is what we do. And I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah. So as you ladies are approaching black belt, how are you reconciling just belt rank and the actual ability, especially when traveling and rolling with people from different academies or just within your gym?
I would say every time a new person that's not a white belt comes into our gym to try it, or if I encounter somebody who's an upper belt, blue belt or above, I should say, I get always a little bit nervous. It's that imposter syndrome that we keep going back to. Like, oh my gosh, what does my brown belt look like compared to this other person from this other gym? And there's never been a time when I'm like, oh, dang it, I was right all along. I shouldn't have this belt. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
I guess Roland does know what he's talking about. Like, so I think, back to the whole concept of like trusting Roland who's making these decisions, for his gym and for us, knowing that he knows where we're at and where we should be is just still like a continuous process. I'm probably going to be like that my whole life. I know the next stripes on our belts are coming at a timing base now, but I feel like even when that happens, I'm going to be like, nah, I don't know about this. And, within our own gym, I just fully anticipate what happens every time you get a new belt is that everyone's just going to go that much harder to like prove something and just to be ready for that giant target. Like it's going to be an even more massive target than it's ever been. Being usually the smallest person in the room. That gets a little tricky sometimes, but just being prepared for that and just trusting the process and trusting what I know.
Yeah, I totally agree with Eileen. The anytime I've ever rolled with, aside from a couple competitive black belts, um, every time I roll with someone that is a little better than me, anytime I have like those little tiny successes, I'm like, oh, okay, like I actually kind of know some jujitsu. Like, but it's definitely hard to feel that way. And sometimes I've also had the other thought, like I've been to gyms and I've rolled with people and I'm like, how do y'all promote people here? This is, you would not be that rank at our gym. um, but at the end of the day, that's not that's for y'all to worry about.
Yeah.
And I think, like I said before, like jiu-jitsu is, for me, is an individual sport. It's for me to test my own growth day to day. And then, the community aspect is part of me testing and growing, is that I need to make sure that I'm helping my community grow. So even if I go to other gyms and maybe it feels, alien and different than what I'm used to, my job there is still just to push myself and to help push my training partners of that day. And just that little bit every time. And so when I kind of step back and think of that versus the, the belts at the end of the day are just kind of a nice way to like know you've been growing.
Yeah.
And it's more important what I'm getting out of each training session, and the target on the back is a little scary with this next go. I feel like brown belts, they forget about us. They're like, you're like good, but like, you're not a black belt. And so it's easy just to like fly under the radar a little bit. It feels like that's going to go away. So a little
Yeah.
nervous about that.
I think too,
Yeah.
within the culture, I've come to a point where it's like, I will never be the best. And that's not because of like lack of confidence or things like that. It's because I don't really even know if that exists. I want to be surrounded by people who are within the best, but like as far as one sole person ever being the best at something, I think that's the beauty of jujitsu is you should always, in whatever gym or culture you're around, you should always be around people who are better than you. And no matter what level you're at, I think it would be a shame to not be challenged. And I think that's pretty rare to be within a community of practicing individuals, no matter what belt rank you're at, to not be challenged when you go into a class. And I think too, I think you guys have all brought up a lot of the imposter syndrome or just uncertainty, I guess, around what that means. But I think at the same time, you guys have gone through years of being humbled and having your ego checked, that it's not going to be any different whether you're a black belt too. And you guys already know that. And so I think that's a cool part too, is that like builds character. It's not one of those things that as soon as you guys have a black belt, you're never going to have to tap again, or you're never going to get choked out, or if that happens, now you got to take the black belt off and it's not deserved. That's just not how it works. And so I think that's the cool thing. It's now when that does happen, how do you handle yourself, and how do you get feedback from whoever did that to you, or give kudos, or shake it off and be like, well, shit, okay, let's go again. It doesn't matter, right? It's just a matter of how you carry yourself and then learn from it. And that's what's the cool part about it, is that like that doesn't stop. And so yeah, I love it. Ariel, sorry, I kind of cut you off a little bit, but
Oh, no, I think you brought up a good point about the best. Like, you have to define that, because it can be easy to say, well, I am not the best brown belt in the room. We train with these massive guys that a lot of them are younger than us, and they're incredible athletes. They're ripped and have incredible pressure. And we're like, I'm a mom, I'm in my 40s, but and I don't think comparison's really helpful, but it can help with the realizing, well, out of all the 40-year-old moms, I'm showing up and I'm doing this, and I'm not afraid to go with these huge, talented young guys who are stronger and more athletic and have every reason, just looking at them like there's no way I could win, but I'm not afraid of that. And I love that journeyman, there's such a range in age and ability that I guess the better question, the more helpful question is, how can I grow no matter who I roll with? I mean, if I'm rolling with a 5-year-old kid, I can still learn. Where am I putting pressure? I don't want to hurt them, but I can still train. If I'm going with a massive person, I can still train. I just have to rethink. If I'm going with an older person, and some of that I've had to learn the hard way. Like because I'm not a big person, but I identify as a large person, I'll roll hard, and I've hurt people because I had just gone with a huge dude, and so I'm like sending it, and then I do it with a smaller woman, and I'm like, oh no, you have a concussion now. Shoot. My bad. And I mean, some of that you can't control, like injuries are going to happen no matter where you are, even in jujitsu. So, and you don't know where that person is mentally. Like, you may be the reason they quit, and that sucks. That really sucks. But I guess I just love that if my attitude is in the right place, I can learn from everybody, because everybody has something to offer.
Mhm.
And I think that level of respect, that's not going to change in black belt. And I hope other people like the same with me. They're still like having to think, and they're not like disappointed. I don't think anybody's disappointed when they have to roll with someone who's, a white belt or is smaller. I think we kind of share that, like, oh, I can always be learning because that's on me.
Mhm.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, last kind of deep and in-depth question is, what do you believe changes, if anything, once you tie on a black belt? It's very clear you guys have already said it's not an end point, but do you believe it's a beginning? Do you think it's something else entirely? Does it change anything for you individually or?
For me, I hope it doesn't change much. Like, I want to keep training and coaching like I've been doing. I enjoy that. I think there might be that extra mantle of responsibility that kind of comes with getting your black belt, but hopefully, for the most part, it's still the same day in and day out. I think something Roland said to me right before I got my purple belt, and it was one of his match hats, so he's like talking to the whole class. And he was a pretty new black belt at the time, I think, too. He's like, you're looking up at me like there's this big, long way to get here, but I'm looking back at where you're at, and I'm like, that's not really that far away. And, especially when you roll with some people sometimes and you're like, oh, wow, like, you've got some skills. I know what I'm doing, but I feel a little pressure from this person, from like a blue belt or a purple belt sometimes. And I've been, I don't know, kind of relating to that a lot lately. It felt like this would never happen. Like, this day would never come. I wanted it, but it's like, oh, that's just too far away. But now looking back, I'm like, that wasn't really that far or that long ago that it felt like almost something that couldn't be accomplished. And watching other people too, like, oh, wow, you're not that far off me, skill wise. So it doesn't feel like a huge change. I think it feels more like there's going to be more external pressures than internal pressures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think kind of like the other side of it too is a lot of people look at black belt like it's the black belt. But when you're a black belt, I mean, you could be a 25-year black belt or you could be a 2-day black belt,
Yeah.
and you are not the same. You are not equals. Your belt color might be the same, but you are not on the same level. Like, I do
100%.
not expect that we're getting our black belt and now we're on Roland's level.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely not. 0% chance. So, in that sense, I think things aren't the same. They'll be the same. Like, I don't feel like I'm going to be all of a sudden elevated as a jiu-jitsu person now that I'm a black belt. Like, my jiu-jitsu is probably going to look exactly the same, but I feel like it makes your eyes even wider as to how big this whole thing is. It's like, oh, you're a baby. You just got your black belt. You're a baby in jiu-jitsu. Like, you got a long way, kid. So I think it's just an interesting perspective. Like, oh, black belt's the goal. And it's like, no, the goal is just like to keep learning. And that's endless, which is cool and also scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like, well, there's very clear markers before, which, I mean, you learn, oh, I haven't arrived at blue belt, and all the preconceived notions of, each belt kind of fly out the window as soon as you get that belt. You're like, oh, I don't know. But it's even more so. It's like stepping into a black hole. You're like, I don't, how am I supposed to orient myself? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not in that. And I'm sure once, we go home from our promotion, one day at a time. And I mean, the standards aren't going to change. Like, we still hold ourselves to the same standard. But it just feels less definable now.
Yeah. And it's cool too, because you guys have already kind of committed yourselves to additional parts of what jiu-jitsu has to offer from early stages. I think from some of you guys opening up your own places or providing options in other locations for practicing, being committed and just kind of helping out with kids or adult classes. You guys have already kind of taken that step of what you could further do within the community. And so, yeah. And I'm assuming that probably happens for a lot of practitioners, it seems like, where it's not, okay, now you're a black belt and now you got to get into teaching. I feel like it kind of merges already in the earlier stages. But it's just cool to see the impact that you guys are having, not only from just practicing standpoint, but sharing your knowledge. So very good. Awesome. So now what we're going to do is we're going to transition into some more like fun, lighthearted questions. So the first one I have for you ladies is, what would be a signature move or go-to move that you feel like what you embody, I guess you could say, or what you think others catch on about you?
I say for me, like, everyone expects me to touch their lapel. They're always like, "Oh yeah, there you go again." I'm always filling it out and I'm trying to use it for something. But I don't know if there's a move necessarily. I don't know.
No, that's perfect though.
That would have been my answer, lapel for Aileen.
I would say lapel also. I maybe it's because Roland's trained us. This is a little bit off topic. I don't know that it's a specific move, but it's funny in training when people are like, "Why are you so heavy?" And I'm like, "Yes." Because that's something that
Boosting
it's a compliment.
Your big person personality there.
Yes. Which outside of the gym, like, would never be viewed as a compliment, But Bravo choke. Yeah.
One thing that I think about with you, Ariel, I don't know, and this just could be me, but one thing that I remember about you is when we would play gi, roll and gi, when you would have a grip by the neck and you'd just be standing and nobody has like gone for a takedown or anything, you would always do this kind of quick snap down to like change people's positions. And I always remember that because one, it was very quick and aggressive for a woman. So now it makes sense that you're like this big body person, like making a stance right away. But it was something that I really learned because it catches somebody off guard. But I just remember almost guarantee, okay, I'm rolling with Ariel. When is she gonna snap me down by my lapel? And again, I'm like, I don't know if that is even a thing that you do, but it sticks in my head very vividly.
For me, I'm not sure. I think probably other people would say like being flexible and limbs coming out of nowhere. I think I'm pretty good about weaving my way into around people, and they're just like, "What the hell? Like, where'd this come from?" So,
yeah,
I'd say for Britt, I would say, like, you're always fishing for some kind of triangle. Like, I'm expecting a triangle if I'm rolling with Britt.
I do like a triangle.
I was like, I don't know if I expect a specific move with you, Ariel.
Just aggression. That's what I
Yes.
Speak truth to me. Because I don't know.
That's a good thing.
You too. I feel like we're pretty evenly matched. I know I can't sleep on either of you. And if I end up on bottom, you guys aren't letting go. Like, we're all trying to murder each other.
Good. So this kind of leads into the next one is gym personality. So being honest, what would you feel like your gym personality would be? How you feel like you perceive yourself or how others perceive you? So whether it be, you're the talker, you're the silent assassin, the always complaining about the music, whatever it may be. What is kind of your personality as far as within the gym environment?
For me, I'm way chattier at the gym than I am in normal human life. Like, I talk a lot. I talk when I roll. And I think my rolling style is kind of, I don't want to say lazy, but slow. I feel like I'd rather like lay little traps for people to get into or kind of go where they're going and see what I can find on their own journey of rolling. But I'm definitely a lot more extroverted in the gym, but in like a more upbeat way. which is, I think if people on the street who I've met like outside of jujitsu, they'd be like, wow, what? Who is this person? So
Yeah.
very different at the gym.
I kind of resonate with that a little bit, but it also depends who I'm around at the gym. Like, if I don't know you very well, I work an extroverted job, but I'm definitely an introvert. And so on the mat, if I don't know you very well, I'm probably going to be more introverted. And it was funny because there's one of the guys that trains with us, his wife trains with us too. But she started later than he did, and she was on the mat. It was like probably one of her first classes, and I was her partner. And I don't really remember too much about that day, but later, like in recent history, her husband came up to me and was like, yeah, my wife thought you hated her when she first was your partner because you didn't say anything. And I was like, I'm not like a chit chat person. I don't know.
You're
but
like, let
once
me
I
send her to Britt.
yeah, but once I get like comfortable and I get to know you, I can be like that. So it just kind of depends. But I am probably more of the I'll just silently kill you this time.
I don't feel like I accurately assess myself very often. I've learned, like, I mean, since college that how I view myself is not how other people view me. Like, especially women, because women tend to be, or, a majority of women tend to be more feelers. And I am not that way. And so I'm not very easily offended, and I don't pick up on a lot of things that other women do. And so I've learned, because of friends and all the feely people around me, that I'm like a hard, jagged thing that pokes people a lot, like with my comments or like just how I am. And so I've like tried to I've just tried to work on that so I'm not constantly offending people. But going to the gym, it feels like I have a little more permission to just be myself, and not hopefully I'm not offending people, but I have noticed I yell at people more than you guys do. Like the belt test, I'm like, "Get up!" Like, I'm just like, I don't know.
We need all of it though, Ariel.
Yeah.
You are a little jagged at the gym, but that's, I think that's what makes us well rounded is, we'll have some of us encouraging people,
Yeah.
and Ariel's over there like, get your ass up.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to have a place where I feel permission, because I do music at our church, and I've had some older ladies who've asked about, that's always like the fun fact. Oh, and I also do this. And people are like, I cannot imagine you doing that, because I'm like playing piano and singing. And I'm like, yep, this is a different side of me. There's not really a place for that here. So it's been fun to have people from church come and train too, because we always we're like, yeah, we know what's going on.
I love that. Okay, what are your guys' gym pet peeves that just bother the crap out of you, whether it's justified or just completely irrational?
This is 100% Roland's fault. Cannot stand when people don't have their belts tied in a decent way, like druggers, and smelly people.
Yes, I was going to say smelly people. And despite the many, many reminders Roland has, even like, hey, have your neighbor sniff you just to make sure, you still encounter it all the time. And with the kids, their freaking stinky feet. Like, they need to wash their feet more than just the little washing pads before getting on the mat, because they all smell like onions and stinky feet.
Well, I know there's a learning curve to the standards. So I don't know. I tend to have grace for people when they're starting out and they don't know what's going on. And, their belts like,
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now start paying attention and, let's pick up the, I don't know, awareness of what the standards are. I think for the most part, once you start advancing, like, you pick that up. So Yeah, I think I get annoyed when people are yelling at other people or trying to coach people and they're not doing it themselves. Or when, okay, here's the thing. When huge guys try to tell me how to do pressure, I'm like,
Like yours
what do
is
you
called
mean?
gravity.
You're
That's
huge.
gravity.
You have,
Mhm.
yeah, there's no technique there happening. Don't tell me technique. If somebody smaller than me, or, well, I mean, and there's big guys who I'm like, holy crud. Like, you can tell when people have legit technique and pressure, and when people don't have the things that they're trying to coach you on, I'm like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Mm-hmm.
be quiet.
Yep.
As far as like legit, I'm annoyed by you right now. Like, shut up. But I don't I let Roland do that. Yell at people.
Also, white belts trying to coach people. That is my pet peeve too. I'm
Oh
like,
my gosh.
bro, you've been on the mat for 5 minutes. What are you trying to coach somebody for?
Oh, or parents that don't train off the mat telling, I'm like, why don't you get on the mat and tell, just get up. It's like,
Yeah.
Agreed.
that's annoying.
Very good. I knew you guys would have a few. Okay. Warm up truths. Be honest. If there was any part of warm ups that you secretly hope would get skipped during a class or maybe promotion day, what would that warm up be?
Can we answer this after the black belt promotion?
Granted, this is not going to come out beforehand, so Roland can't listen to this and be like, oh, we're doing double of these.
Perfect.
So,
Okay. Then I would say seals. Seals. Like if he skipped seals, I would be very happy.
okay, explain. So a lot of these warm-ups, you guys are going to have to kind of explain. So can you try and explain what this movement is as best you can?
Oh my gosh. So you're on your stomach and your thumbs are facing backwards and you are like rocking yourself down the mat on your stomach like that. It's like halfway down. If you get in a good rhythm, it's great. But if anybody in front of you stops and you get out of that rhythm, it is so hard to pick it back up. And then I tried to do it twice in a row. What was it like whatever last line warm up we did? And I almost died. Like I could barely make it down the mat the second time. So seals are my
It's
my hard one.
triceps.
Yeah.
It's a tricep burner, man.
Okay.
And I would say when we do the like fists on the mat punch and you have to jump, you're in like a plank position. I've worked very hard since white belt when we had to do hundreds, working on push-ups. And yet that one is this like explosive, like moving down the mat, and it's that one's really
Especially
hard.
when the
I'm
mat's
like,
slippery and your
gosh.
fists are like slipping around.
My gosh. Yeah, all the wrestler guys are like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Okay.
move it along. Pass me by. That's fine.
I would say arm drags, which are on your belly, like just pulling yourself dead weight, like your legs don't work anymore. I'm not a big fan of those. I've gotten better at them, so they annoy me less. And then baby jumps, because they hurt my knees.
Well, I know I'm just kind of getting you guys mentally prepared for the beauty of this warm-ups because out of all three, guaranteed at least one of those suckers are going to be in there on promotion day, if not all of them. So
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I believe in you guys. All right.
Thanks.
Last but not least, if you could give white belt you one piece of advice, what would it be? And would you actually listen?
Tie your belt right. And at least that's the first one. I like went and looked back at some of the first pictures and I'm like, look at this slob.
Mine would be stop gripping so hard.
Ooh.
And I probably would. I wouldn't listen.
No, it's no.
I feel like those are almost hard. Like I feel like all the things I did as a white belt, I now especially coaching, I watch everybody do it, and you're just like, oh, like that wasn't me. That's just it's really weird and hard. But like the trying to hold on to a move long after you've done lost that position, I wish I would have figured that out sooner, but again, like, you don't know what you don't know. So, when you're in that moment, you're just like, I only know this one grip in this one position. And so you're just hanging on to it for dear life, even though that position was like 3 positions ago and this person's like upping you up into all new positions, but you're still like dedicated. You're like, well, I can't let go because this is all I got.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just the ability to like, just move on to the next thing. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Very good. All right, ladies. Well, I always finish every episode out with 2 main questions. So the first question is, what's something you wish didn't have as much of a grip on you in your life?
Sugar.
Sweet too.
Trying to get better at that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've mostly cut out alcohol, which is sugar, which as I have like made a huge impact on my recovery. I just for years like waking up, my hands just hurt, my joints. And so yeah, just cutting out, adjusting my diet. Yeah, sugar is
That's a good
kind
one.
of a funny one.
I'd say for me, perfectionism. Like I still am a perfectionist and I know that I don't know everything. I know I'm not good at everything, but it pisses me off when I'm not good at something. And that's still on the mats too. If I can't hit something and I feel like I should be able to hit it, I just like stew over it and stew over it. And I wish I could just let that go more easily and just move on with my life. But it's very hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think currently for me, it's been hard on myself when I don't have the time and ability to get to the gym as much as I would like. So I really love training and I'm single parenting right now. So oftentimes it's really difficult to find the time to be able to take care of all the things I need to take care of at home and get to the gym. So just kind of trying to give myself that grace to be like, you know what, like this is just a season. It'll come back into a season where I get to train more.
Mm-hmm.
And just taking advantage of the training I do get and really trying to make the most of every moment and get all those really good rolls in, and especially making Sundays because that's when I go to my home gym and when I get to roll with the people that I feel challenge me the most. And there's a lot more upper belt women at that gym, so just knowing that I'll get in like some really heavy good rolls with people who are similar size is such a valuable thing. So just trying to take advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah. Good. Very relatable, all 3. Okay. And then on the other end of that is, what is something you wish you had more of a grip on in your life?
Judo terms. Japanese.
Literally any jujitsu terms. I feel like there's so many names for everything that I'm just like, this is a shoulder lock. And they're like, well, actually it's called this. I'm like, it's a shoulder lock.
I know, agreed. Yeah.
I want to say a curriculum from Roland. I'm like, can you please help us coach more cohesively? I'm like, always like trying to pull like, okay, so how do you continue to learn when you're the best person in your environment? And I've kind of spoken to that. You can always be learning, but legitimately like find new moves. Like I don't want to go to YouTube and trial things out. I mean, there is some of that trialing it out, but just extracting from him more. And I know he's working on it. Like he's busy too, and he has some plans, but I'm always like trying to get more of his philosophy, just leadership from him. I mean, he's pretty chill.
Yeah, I think I can relate to those ones, like in coaching in general, just trying to get more settled in the way I coach. Like I've been coaching for a while and I've coached lots of things and taught lots of things throughout my life and been an instructor in different various ways. But I guess because I can't perceive how I'm coaching from the outside and how it's affecting people, just kind of hoping that I'm having like even a fraction of the impact that I feel like Roland has had on my life and the people I know, just hoping I'm bringing some value to their experience because I want to just be able to give back in the way that I feel like I've, been given such great opportunities with Roland. So yeah, I think that would be the thing I'd want to get more of a grip on.
Aileen?
I don't know. This is hard.
It can be jujitsu related. It doesn't have to be. It can just be anything personal within your life or within the gym.
I think having a child with special needs is very challenging in my life all around. And oftentimes you feel like a failure. Similar in jujitsu, obviously. So I wish I just had more confidence in kind of just like my whole life that I'm doing the best I can to raise these humans that I'm raising, especially my son, who just requires more effort than most kids do his age. Because a lot of times you just feel like, oh my gosh, why isn't he doing this? Or why is he doing this? And, giving yourself grace to still be figuring things out along the way and knowing that you're not messing up his life or your kids' lives. I think that's the piece that still I have a lot of work to do on. It's like constantly, and my husband and I talk about this all the time. It's like, are we doing everything we can to give them the best opportunities for success? And what does their success even look like? And, are we failing them? So I wish I just had a better grip in that sense. And that's like on and off the mat, but especially off the mat.
Yeah. And super relatable too, Aileen. And I speak to you and I speak to the rest of you guys that you guys are all very clear examples of just strong, resilient women. You guys are busy and you come in and present yourself in a very admirable way. And I can speak to that because I had the pleasure of meeting each of you as you are all pretty far along in your jujitsu journey. And I can speak for myself. And I think others would really agree that you guys are very clear examples of so many positive things. And I thank you for that. And I think you guys are going to continue to really make an impact within your gym community, but outside of it too, within your families, friends, coworkers. And so it really has been an honor to sit down and have this conversation. I feel extremely blessed. And so for the listeners that are watching or just hearing the conversation and want to follow along, these women are not super active on social media, but you can follow along on Warrior Strength Martial Arts. That is a gym in Bellevue, Washington. You can follow Journeyman Grappling, which is out of Ording, Washington. Or if you're in the area, just swing in and get to know them and train and see what they're all about. They'll for sure push you and set you straight. So best of luck if that is the avenue you want to take, but you will not regret it. Britt, I was going to ask you because you said that you do some classes in a separate gym. Do you feel comfortable sharing what gym that is and the classes or times that you offer?
Yeah, it's Rebellion Jiu Jitsu. It's in Burien. And I teach a women's class on Mondays at 6 p.m.
Awesome. And then Aileen, I think majority of your classes that you're kind of helping teach the kids within Journeyman Grappling in Ording, correct?
Yep.
And can you explain those classes, the age ranges, and then when you usually are teaching?
Yeah, so the kids classes are Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We have 3 kids classes. The ages are a little loose, but generally like 3-ish to 5-ish, 6-ish, from 4:30 to 5. And then 5 to 5:45 is that like next group that's kind of a step up from that littles class up through age 10 or so, and then 9 to 10, and then 10 to 15 or so is the teens class that's at 5:45 until 6:45 when the adult class starts.
Perfect. And then Ariel, I know you kind of set up another side gig in a garage space. Is that right? Outside your home. And then you also are traveling with a group of kids over to Bellevue. Can you kind of give a little bit more details on those?
Mhm. Yeah, Mondays and Fridays, I have a little gym behind my house that I do jujitsu club from 4 to 5. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, I help coach the kids out in Bellevue at Warrior Strength and sometimes adult class. That's 5 to 6 kids and 6 to 7:30 adults. Yeah. And then Sunday, we're all in Ording.
Very good. Very good. Well, I have one final message. We can laugh or cry about the laundry piles, the warm-ups that we secretly hope get skipped, and the roles that humble us more than we'd like to admit. But underneath all of that humor is something really serious and really meaningful. Black belt isn't about being perfect or having it all figured out. It's about showing up through seasons of doubt, exhaustion, growth, and change, and choosing to stay. These conversations remind us that behind every promotion is a human being, one who has balanced family, work, service, identity, and community, all while continuing to step onto the mats. The jokes matter because they reflect the joy that keeps us here, and the weight matters because it represents years of commitment to something bigger than ourselves. I'm incredibly grateful to have shared space with such influential women on the mat and in this moment to highlight your journeys. And I can't wait to see who you continue to become as you step into the next phase as black belts. I wish you ladies the best of luck on promotion day and moving forward. You three are a blessing to so many individuals, and I want to thank you for giving me your time, your energy, and honesty on the podcast. It really does mean so, so much. So, for those listening, by the time this episode comes out, these three wonderful women will already be officially brand new black belt practitioners, or as we call them, baby black belts. So for those listening, go wish these ladies the warmest congratulations on Journeyman Grappling's page. Ariel, Aileen, Britt, go kick some ass and show them how it's done.
Thanks, Kaylee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Grip. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow along on Instagram at The Grip Pod to stay up to date on new episodes. That way you can send over a DM if you've got a question you'd like to hear answered on our roll call series. Now remember, stay sharp, be grounded, and never lose your grip. See you next time.